Hey everybody. It is about 4:30, exactly 4:30 on this 7th day in 2014, Tuesday, January 7th, 2014. Now, first of all, I want to apologize for last night when I did my review on 256. I I apologize for the awkward silence, if you will, at the beginning. You see, I live with my family. Well, I live with my mom, and first of all, don't make fun of the fact that I live with my mom. All right, there's a lot of people that live with their parents that are about my age, if not older or younger. Okay, um, but anyway, um, my mom, just like with any parent or anybody in your family, is kind of the person that likes to know everything. And it's all right if they do. It's just sometimes you don't want them to know just about everything that you do. So I basically had to do a little bit of a silent mode because I had to wait to the opportune moment, I should say, to do the audio video last night. And when I found that opportune moment, I took it. But anyway, that aside, let's get into the video, what this video is about. And this is about looking at the entire Countdown to Chaos arc, 4-part miniseries, 4-part soft retcon, 4-part soft reboot. And from what I have read, because I've read all the issues, including the epilogue to the At All Cost 2-part miniseries, epilogue to the Mecha Sally World Tour 2 Death Egg Mark II arc, and at the same time prologue into Countdown to Chaos and into the soft retcon. And from what I've read, because I read all the issues, including 256, courtesy of the Archie Comics app or Archie Comics Sonic app, where you could download it for $2.99. And I have to say that despite how Countdown to Chaos came about, folks, I thought it was all right. I mean, when you actually read all the issues and you look at the littlest details and you look at how it was presented, whether you like the guy or not, and I've had my problems with Ian Flynn, a lot of us have had our problems with Ian Flynn, a lot of us have had our problems with Paul Kaminsky and Archie Comics themselves, and even Sega. We've all had our differences. We've all had our likes and dislikes with them. But but when Ian Flynn, again, whether you like the guy or not, when Ian Flynn came out and basically said that that the characters are still going to remain themselves, and you could see that. When I saw Sally's facial expressions in 256, I said to myself, "That's Sally. That is Sally. There is no doubt about it. That is Sally." I mean, you could see it's her. I mean, sure, you might have a tweak of personality here and there, but it's mostly all her. It's mostly all her. But when he said they would be presented as if they were from the direct, but when he kind of mentioned that they would be presented as if they were directly from the games, as if they were part of the games, I know a lot of people were kind of like, okay, what does Ian Flynn mean by that? What does he mean like they're directly from the games? We don't get it. What does he mean by that? And basically what he means is that each character now has their own special ability. That's right. And we're not just talking Sonic, we're not just talking Amy, we're not just talking Big, we're not just talking Cream. We're talking the freedom fighters themselves. And throughout each issue, you saw them showcased that ability in some way. You might say, well, Rhoda doesn't have any special ability. Well, he's super strong. He's basically strong now. He's muscle bound. He's more lean and mean, so he's kind of like the muscle of the team. Right? There you go. He's got his special ability. And then you take a look at Antoine. He's got the sword spinning dash from Black Knights. That's his ability. Bunny, she has a new, whatever it is, shield or whatever it was, as part of her ability. And then you have Sally, who many people predicted was going to have her her blades as her primary weapon, and she did. But here's the thing. Here's the thing, folks. She did have them as her primary weapon, as her new ability. But here's the deal. Here's something that a lot of people thought was going to happen, but it didn't. Sally's energy blades, as we look at them now, or energy window blades, whatever you want to call them, because they look a heck of a lot different than they did when she was Mecha Sally. But her energy blades, they come from the blue rings around her blue wrist rings on her gloves. And I'm pretty sure we're going to find out more later on of how that came about. But I think we can all suffice and probably indicate that just like with Bunny in this timeline, just like Bunny Rabbit in this timeline, Sally's wrist rings and her energy blade ability came courtesy of Uncle Chuck, Rotor, maybe Tails, and possibly Nicole, or mostly Uncle Chuck and Rotor. That's all I could think of. And we'll probably find out more later on. But I will say this about Countdown to Chaos. Ian Flynn, whether you like it, again, like I say, whether you like the guy or not, for the situation that he was put in, he actually came through. He actually came through by actually giving you the idea of what they would be, of what these characters would be like if they had been from the game. Like, okay, if Sally was in a Sonic game, what would her ability be? Oh, her ability is going to be energy blades. Antoine's ability. Antoine's going to be these Black Knight sword spin dash. You get the idea. But yeah, overall, Countdown to Chaos, I thought did a decent job. I mean, yeah, like a lot of you, I'm not a fan of how it came about, and I definitely know Ian Flynn himself is not a fan of how it came about. But what are you going to do? When you're put into a situation where you have to improvise, you have to do what you got to do. And Ian Flynn and Archie Comics did what they had to do, whether we like it or not. I mean, I know there's a lot of people, Mixed Fan 8643 at DeviantArt. There's a lot of people like him that are doing whatever it takes to, in their own words, in their own, with their own time and everything, but in their own words, they're trying to rewrite what the issues should have been like. How the Mecha Sally arc should have came to an end. In fact, you have some people wanting to start up a web comic that would be basically you basically have people wanting to do start up a web comic similar to Season, this Sonic SatAM Season, which is Season 3 web comic. You have fans and people wanting to start up a web comic similar to that to kind of show, visually show what the Mecha Sally arc, World Tour 2 arc, Death Egg Mark 2 arc, whatever you want to call it, was how that was originally supposed to go. You have people that are willing to do that because they feel cheaped out. They feel like they were robbed, if you will, of a decent conclusion. But again, whether we like it or not, sometimes when we're put in a situation to where things are beyond our control, we got to do what we got to do. To quote what they've been saying a lot on WWE, we got to do what's best for business. We got to do what's best for the fans. Now, true, some might say that what Archie Comics and Ian Flynn did here in the Sonic comic is not what's best for the fans, but they did what was best for business. Basically, the business of keeping that license, the license of publishing Sonic comics alive and strong. So they did what they had to do, folks. And like I said, for a story that was basically improvised and, in my opinion, just put together on the fly, just my opinion, I have to say it turned out all right. I mean, it gave us an idea throughout, especially at the end, of how severe the situation was. I mean, basically, we find out that because of Eggman's meddling with the time-space continuum, because of the Genesis wave and the Super Genesis wave, all of that energy, every single one of it, all that energy, if you will, from the Genesis wave, has all basically landed on top. Well, not landed on top, but has basically been absorbed by Mobius Prime. By the Prime universe, by Mobius Prime. It's been all that energy from the Genesis waves have basically caused all the alternate realities and multi-universe, or multiverse, if you will, to basically focus all its energies and timelines right onto Mobius Prime, to the point that because of this, the planet trying to readjust to this new timeline, trying to basically readjust itself, try to, make itself into one major timeline, is tearing itself apart. And because of that, the entire multiverse, as we find out at the end of issue 256, has collapsed in upon itself. Basically, all alternate realities have collapsed. They're falling apart, just like the Prime universe is, because of the Genesis wave and Super Genesis wave situations. In other words, because of Eggman's meddling in desperation to say, I want to have a world and a timeline where Sonic and nobody can bother me and I can do whatever I want and I'll rule the world with an iron fist. Because of that kind of meddling, if you will, the timeline has become unstable. The timeline has become unstable. Sorry about that. I thought I heard something. But the timeline has become unstable, and now they've got to find a way to fix it. But as we find out, as a bit of a cliffhanger, they can't stop it. They can't fix it because it's too late. And now all they have to do is try to find a way to, well, they do have to try to find a way to save it, but get things back to normal in a sense. And we all know it's going to happen. But I will say this again, that with Countdown to Chaos, even though it was thrown together on the fly, in my opinion, it definitely gave us a good sense of what's happening. And if you're new to the comic, and this is basically like your introduction to who these established characters are, now with special abilities and powers, what a way for you to be introduced to them. What a way for you to be introduced to the comic. You're jumping right, you're basically having the main characters, the main heroes, jump right into the fire. And to me, I believe, honestly, this is going to be something that is going to carry on maybe to 275 at the most. And if at the latest, I would say 300. At the most, and probably the best prediction point, I would say 275. if they make it to 275, because a lot of people think the comic's not going to probably make it that far. I think it will. And at the latest, 300. I really look at it. Between 275 and 300 is when we're going to have a proper conclusion to this whole timeline, worlds tearing themselves apart kind of situation. That's what I see happening. I really do. I really see that happening. And I know a lot of you probably listening to this would disagree with that. And you've got a legitimate point to disagree with it. There's no reason not to want to disagree with how this is coming about or how it is going to come about. But again, you got to just deal with the cards that were dealt with you. Or dealt with. Basically, as the old saying goes, you got to deal with the cards that were dealt. And again, like I said, I understand a lot of people are not happy with how Countdown to Chaos came about. I mean, I'm sure there are some people that are like, hey, Countdown to Chaos was okay. We liked it. It was a good story, decent setup, decent reintroduction, decent little soft retcon, reboot, whatever you want to call it. But I'm also sure they're not happy with how it had to come about. I mean, they're probably okay with the story, just not happy how it came about. Like, you had to basically they're not happy that we didn't get a proper conclusion. And the way I look at it is like this. The reason some people might be upset, like let's say the fans that were against Sally being roboticized, I'm pretty sure some of those fans are upset at the fact that they never had the opportunity to be proven right. Because you see, there are some fans that were against Sally's robotization and weaponization, myself included, but not in this category. You see, me, I'm like, hey, I don't like what they did to Sally, but you know what? I'm willing to wait it out, and I did, as a lot of you saw. As a lot of you know, I waited it out, and I did. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. These fans that, like me, didn't like what happened to Sally, but unlike me, always believed, in which I did not, but they always believed Sally, storyline-wise, was gutted, taken apart, blah, 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 when she was weaponized, or when she was getting weaponized. Basically, now they can no longer be proven right. They cannot be proven right. They cannot be proven, basically they can't be proven right. They won't be able to have any kind of evidence. Now, not saying they're not going to get some evidence, because we now know that Ian Flynn, hopefully by this summer, if not the late spring, plans to give us what he calls lost hedgehog tales. In other words, he plans to tell us exactly what was originally supposed to happen. And then you have Ben Bates, who's been showcasing and giving us, hopefully, a three-part process of how originally when he was approached to design Sally's mecha design and weaponized design, of how she would go from mecha to weaponized to back to normal. And they're hoping to get some kind of answer there too, but until one of those gives them an answer to like, yeah, she was supposed to be robotic, yeah, she was taken apart, or it says no, she wasn't taken apart and it was just armor, then pretty much as of right now, they basically can't prove whether one or the other was true. So that's why they're a little upset. And they're also upset that, basically they're like, Ian, you put all this time and effort into a story that may not have interested us, but you put a lot of time and effort to at least try to get a proper conclusion, and now you can't even do that. But again, give Ian Flynn credit because he's willing to, at least during this year, whether you like the guy or not, give you an idea, basically for free, give you an idea of exactly what's coming, of what was supposed to originally happen in the story and in the arc. So that's something to look forward to, whether you like the guy or not. Now, again, like I said, getting back to Countdown to Chaos, I have to say that, again, it was like I said earlier, it was a decent setup, decent reintroduction for the characters, or introduction if you're new to the comic, to the characters. You know, nice little retcon, nice little soft reboot. And yes, the characters are still themselves. They're still themselves. Do not worry about that. They are still themselves. All that's different is they have new designs, and they have, some of them, if not most of them, have special abilities now, special powers. So overall, Countdown to Chaos, whether you liked it or not, I thought it was okay. I thought it was a decent setup, retcon, reboot. Soft retcon, I should say. Soft retcon, soft reboot. I thought it was decent. You know, Ian Flynn did stick to his word by saying the characters still were themselves. They were still themselves, personality-wise, of course. So, you know, really that's about it. And all I could say is when they do bring the graphic novel out, I would highly recommend getting it. Or if you have an iPad, iPod, Android, tablet, whatever, I suggest if you have the Archie Comics app, downloading all the issues and reading them. It's good. Or if you like to physically have the issue in your hand, I would suggest going out to your local comic shop or going online to Mile High Comics or Midtown Comics and ordering those issues to really get an idea and appreciation of how decent this story was. So, as far as I'm concerned, Countdown to Chaos was a decent story, decent setup for what's to come, and decent reintroduction to the characters, or introduction to the characters if you're new to the comics. And that's really all I could say. If I was to grade it, I would give it maybe a B+. B+ at the most. I know some of you might say it's a little high, but I give it a B+ because I do agree it could have been done better. They could have done a little bit more with it, as well as they could have given us a more decent conclusion to the previous arc instead of just rushing us right into this. But overall, decent, and I highly recommend it. I really do. It's a B+ kind of story, maybe an A- like story. But one thing I will say, it does establish the fact that now it looks like, from Ian Flynn's standpoint, that the Freedom Fighters are more than just a freedom fighting team, but now the emphasis on the emphasis on the word fighters is going to be focused on a lot more, because it looks like they're being turned into the freedom fighters that take a lot of action, that will go straight into battle, weapons ready, or weapons at the ready, if you will. So I highly recommend it, and it's an A-, B+ arc, reintroduction, soft retcon, soft reboot, introduction if you're a new reader, story and arc. And that's all I could say. Comment below, let me know what you guys think. Sorry for the length of this video. Take your time in listening to it, and I am out. God bless, take care. Comments are welcomed.